Hey everybody, Sarah here. So today we are going to be doing the deep dive on the Ultra gene mutation. This is my favorite gene mutation in corn snakes, and I'm really excited to talk to you about it. But before we jump in, please remember to subscribe if you like weekly corn snake content. That's what I do on this channel. It's mostly educational, especially when it comes to morphs, because I know that morphs is probably one of the hardest things for people to learn in corn snakes. Also, if you like Pokemon content, I don't know if you see, I have a lot of Pokemon stuff back here. I have a whole other YouTube channel for Pokemon stuff now. That is Joy Princess Sarah here on YouTube. I'd love if you went and subscribed to that. I've just been opening up Pokemon card packs and going through my childhood Pokemon cards on that channel, but I do plan to maybe stream gaming and stuff like that in the future, so if you're interested in that, please check it out. I'd really appreciate it. I also want to thank all of our members on this channel because you guys really have made it possible and you continue to motivate me, so thank you so much to Alterna, Amy, Bridget, David, William, Robert, other Amy, and April. Thank you guys so much, and if anybody else would like to become a member, it's $2 a month. You can just click join under any video of mine, and you get exclusive content like access to lives after they're over, cut content from other things on this channel. Sometimes if a video is way too long, I'll actually cut pieces of it out, and you'll get access to those things, as well as other stuff. It's basically like a Patreon, only you don't have to actually go to a Patreon to do it. You can just do it here on YouTube. So no pressure either way. It doesn't take away from the education on this channel, but it does help keep me motivated to continue making videos. Now, Ultra is one of the coolest gene mutations in corn snakes, in my opinion. It is a form of hypomelanistic, and it's a little bit darker than the average hypo. I did a video on all of the different hypotypes a few weeks ago. I'll link that above so you guys can go check that out. That'll kind of give you an overview of how we differentiate Ultra and Ultramel from like other gene mutations. This is going to be mostly how Ultra looks, and then also the history on Ultra as well. So Ultra is allelic to the amelanistic mutation, which is why I think it's so cool. When you mix amelanistic with most other hypotypes, you can't really tell that the hypo is there. So if you mix amel with hypo, it kind of just looks like an amel. And the reason for that is hypomelanistic takes away some of the melanin and it turns the blacks into like a gray or a brown. But when you add amel on top of that, amel just takes away all the rest of the melanin and it just looks like an amel, even if you have the hypotype in there. And that is where amel and ultra combination is different. Because they are allelic, you actually get this combination look instead. And I'm not going to go over exactly what allelic means in like genetics terms and stuff, because I do want this to be palatable for pretty much everybody. But basically what it means when two gene mutations are allelic is that when they happen at the same time, they mix together instead of sort of being separate. So if you have like say an amel and an anery and you mix them together, you get normals. And the reason for that is because these are recessive gene mutations and they don't mix together like that. You actually have to breed the offspring of those together in order to get the mix. But it's different with amel and ultra, where you can breed them together and it mixes right away. And there's pros and cons to this, but I personally like it because when I breed corn snakes, I typically like to breed for variety, and the easiest way to get variety in corn snakes is to breed an amel to an ultramel. You automatically will get double the amount of morphs that you would get if you just bred an amel to another amel, or just a snow to a snow. You automatically get that variety. So one of my favorite breedings to do, which is one that I actually did this year, is a snow to an ultramel hat anery. And that's automatically 4 different things. Red with the amel, white with the snow, gray with the ultramel anery, and then another like sort of darker red with the ultramel. So very exciting. I love breeding ultramel with pretty much anything that has amel in it. And that's one thing that I always recommend to people if they ask me, oh hey, I have this amel corn snake, what should I breed it to? If you're breeding for variety, I always recommend an ultramel type. So if you would like to understand a little bit more about what allelic means, I did a series of videos on kind of how to calculate different gene mutations. I will link that above if you guys want to check it out. It's kind of outdated and it's kind of a little cringy when I look back on it now, because I did not really know how to set up videos and lighting and all that stuff. But if you are interested in at least sort of learning the basic calculations, it might be helpful. It's not exactly like being in a biology class. I don't exactly do things when I'm calculating in my head the same way that a biology class would do it. So it's not going to be perfect, but again, if you're just looking for basics, that will probably help you. So one of the questions I get is how to differentiate ultra from other gene mutations. And so we talked in the lava video that I did, I'll link that above, about how to differentiate lava from Ultramel, because those are the two that are usually confused for each other the most. And the reason for that is because they both have this like translucent look to them. Both of them in the past have been referred to as a sort of translucent looking hypo. And it is because they reduce so much melanin. However, ultras do not reduce so much melanin. And the reason for this, of course, like I said, is when you mix amel and ultra, you get something that's in between the two. So amel is very, very light, has no melanin. Ultra is by itself is actually a very dark hypomutation. So ultra by itself is actually probably the darkest hypomutation that we have, except for maybe like mask or something like that. So if you would like to learn about how to differentiate lava from ultra and ultramel, I will link the lava video above for you guys to go reference. I'm not going to repeat a bunch of stuff that I've already said. I do want to talk though about how we differentiate ultra from ultramel. And I know that I said that ultramel is usually much lighter and ultra is much darker, but when you have them next to each other, especially as adults, sometimes it can be really hard. Ultramels, typically when they hatch, they have ruby pupils, and then ultras, when they hatch, they usually have darker pupils that are pretty much black, and they will keep those black pupils all the way up into adulthood. And I've said this many times in the past, but this is why we always ask for a close-up of the eye when we are trying to identify a snake's morph. We need the overall belly photo. That's going to help us with what kind of pattern morph we're dealing with. It could be mask, or it could be some type of hypo that is really only visible super well in the belly checkers, or in the case of getting a close-up of the eye, you're definitely going to be able to tell the difference between different hypotypes a little bit better if you have a close-up of the eye. If you don't, it's a little bit more difficult. So when we're differentiating between ultra and ultramel, the eyes are going to be the first thing that we look at, because ultras will usually hatch out with that black pupil, and then the ultramels will usually hatch out with a dark ruby pupil. Now sometimes an ultramel as an adult will be a little bit darker and grow out of that ruby pupil, but some of them also do keep it into adulthood. There is a wide variety of ultramels. I've had ultramels that were so dark they looked like normals. In fact, I have a picture, if I can find it, I'll put it up here, of a normal with my ultramel. It was a normal het for amel that I was trying to breed to my ultramel, and they look so similar, they look like a two-headed snake, because their colors are almost exactly the same. So some ultramels can obviously get very, very dark, but then some are so light that they look like amelanistic types. And so that's another reason that I really love ultramel, is because they are so variable. They are very different. They come on all ends of the spectrum. You can get ones that are very, very yellow without adding any other gene mutations, and then you get some that are very, very red without adding any gene mutations. And this very well could be because of their history, and I will get into that a little bit later in the video. When we are differentiating between an ultra and an ultramel, we usually will ask people to compare the hatchlings to each other, or at least the clutch mates to each other. And the reason for this is because ultramels vary so much, it's really hard to just look at an ultramel and know for sure that it's an ultramel instead of an ultra, especially if it's really dark. And like I said, I've definitely had my share of really dark ultramels. And so when you are breeding a clutch, normally it's not an ultra to an ultra. Normally people will breed either an ultra to an ultramel, or they will breed two ultramels together, which is probably the most common breeding that will result in both ultras and ultramels. And the best thing to do is just compare the offspring to each other. You will see a pretty stark difference between the baby ultras and the baby ultramels. Usually the baby ultras will have much darker pupils, they'll have much darker saddle borders and much darker belly checkers, and just generally an overall darker tone to them than the ultramels, which will be a bit lighter. I have a lot of photos of ultra versus ultramel that I've hatched over time, and so I'm hoping that I'll actually be able to put some of them up here for you guys to see. Now I want to jump into the history of this gene mutation, because I think it's one of the most complex and interesting histories that we have in any gene mutation. Now the original did come from Andy Barr and Mike Falcon. They at the time were breeding a lot of hybrid things, and it was rumored that the ultra gene mutation came from a corn snake gray rat snake hybrid or a white oak rat snake hybrid. White oak is a type of gray rat snake. There were rumors that it was wild caught hybrid that was already an ultra, like already had the G mutation. There was a rumor that a wild caught hybrid was then captive bred with a corn snake, and that's what created the G mutation. Or there's some stories that say that the whole thing was captive bred, so there was just a captive corn snake and a captive white oak rat snake, and breeding them together created this ultra. And then some stories say that it was a completely pure and spontaneous just corn mutation, and that the hybrid, the whole thing was just a misunderstanding. But it is now pretty much confirmed over all of this time that it was most likely a hybrid breeding one way or another that made the first ultra corn snake. Back then, it was not called Ultra, it was actually called the Ultra Hypo. That's one of the oldest names that we have for it, and of course that did boil down to the term Ultra over time. Similar to like what the Peach Hypo did, now it's just called Peach, and that happens a lot in these kind of things when we're not really sure what we're working with. We just call them, Ultra this, or, who knows, and then it ends up just being this like a base name that is different from something else. So when we had Peach Hypo, instead of calling it Peach Hypo, we just call it Peach. We had Ultra Hypo, now we just call it Ultra. And there's been other things like this. So we had Ice Ghost at one point, and we just call it Ice now. Stuff like that. Some of the original people to be working toward proving this G mutation out were Mike of Mike's Motleys and Don of SMR, along with some other people. Rich Zukowski was also involved, as well as Chuck and Connie Pritzel. They were all trying to work and figure out how this G mutation worked, how it was inherited, because back then there really weren't any allelic mutations, or at least not any known allelic mutations. And if there even were allelic mutations, such as strawberry and hypotype A, they looked similar. And so can you imagine, oh yes, we have this allelic pair over here, but they look very similar to each other, and so it made sense that they would be allelic to each other. It made a little bit more sense. But trying to determine two very different G mutations, such as ultra and amel being allelic to each other, was very complex. Back when everybody was trying to breed this mutation and figure it out, there was still sort of up in the air whether or not it was a hybrid mutation. Mike of Mike's Motleys has said many times in the forums, I highly recommend, by the way, check out cornsnakes.com. I will, at the end of this video, kind of show you guys how to navigate cornsnakes.com so you can find this information if you would like. Instead of me linking 1,000 forums, it's much easier for me to just show you how to do it. But Mike of Mike's Motleys said that of all of the breedings, not once did he really think that it was a hybrid. It didn't act like a hybrid according to him, but a lot of people did still see it as most likely being a hybrid, most likely because of the heavy frosting that came with a lot of these snakes. If you look at like the Tequila Sunrise line of Ultramels, they are very heavily frosted, and a lot of the original ones were as well. And actually that's what the name of the corn snake gray rat snake hybrid used to be, was frosted corns. Sort of how we use the term creamsicle today to mean the amel version of the Emery's rat snake corn snake hybrid. The frosted was the name of gray rat snake corn snake hybrid. And of course there's other hybrids such as jungles. We have these different names for these different hybrids. We don't really use the term frosted to mean this hybrid anymore, mostly because there are a lot of corn snakes that have this frosted look that are pure corn snakes. I talked a little bit about that in my hurricane video. I'll link that above for you guys. And also the corn snake gray rat snake hybrid is pretty uncommon, with the frosted look in corns being much more common than the actual like frosted hybrid. And so for the most part, the frosted term being used as a hybrid only term has mostly it's not really that anymore, and we mostly now just use frosted to mean the visual look of having that sort of whiting out in the saddles of the snake. So it took a long time for Mike and Don and the Pritzels and Rich and everyone else who was working on this project to finally come to the conclusion that this Ultra Hypo must be allelic to amel. And the reason for that is because when they would breed two of them together, they would get amels. And then sometimes they would breed amels to one of these, and they would get a mix. And so they were obviously very confused at first why these were mixing this way, because no other G mutation in corn snakes really mixed this way back then. And there was this weird thought of like, are all of my amels het for this hypo mutation? And of course the answer was no, that wouldn't make any sense. What actually ended up making sense, and what we now know to be true, is that amel and ultra are allelic, and when you breed two ultramels together, you get the combination of amel, ultra, and ultramels as the offspring, and that's why it was so confusing. And also because ultra and ultramel look so similar, they thought they were the same gene mutation, maybe just slightly different variable of that same gene mutation. And I talked about how ultramel by itself is very highly variable, so it makes a lot of sense if you get all these snakes that look that similar as babies, that you would think they were the same thing. And so ultra and ultramel was being confused for each other, and then sometimes you would breed one of these ultra hypos to an amel, and you would get all hypos, which of course were ultramels. But then sometimes you would breed one of these ultra hypos to an amel, and you get half amels and half hypos, which of course were amels and ultramels, and that's what we get when we breed amels and ultramels together. So it took many, many years for them to finally figure it out, but they did, and now we have this amazing gene mutation that is super fun to work with, at least to me. I absolutely love it, and I personally don't care if there's hybrid background in there at all. At this point, it's all going to be so diluted that it's not going to really matter that much. And that's also how I feel about a lot of like creamsicle stuff. Unless you have a really high percentage of emeroids in there, most people are not going to label it with the hybrid label. And it's similar with this ultra mutation. We're pretty sure that it is a hybrid mutation, but at this point, it doesn't really matter that much. It's just really fun to work with. So thank you guys for being here. I hope you really enjoyed this video. Next week, we are going to be doing a book review on this amazing book, Corn Snake Hair, the complete guide on how to breed, feed, house, care, and raise corn snake as pets. One corn snake can be multiple pets. I'm very excited to go through another cringy one with you guys. And if you would like a chance to win the one that we did last month, which is this one, this Corn Snake Color Guide by Mike McEachern, I will link that video above. Just go comment under that video. Anybody who comments under a book review video has a chance of winning the book that was reviewed in that video. So I'm really excited to do another fun, cringy book for you guys next week. And then after that, we can get back to the actual serious books. But either way, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in that video. Okay, so this is the part of the video where I'm going to show you how to navigate the cornsnakes.com forum. This is kind of an older forum, and I know a lot of people probably don't really know how to navigate forums like this. And even if you do, I know that sometimes people just have a hard time navigating forums in general, so I get it. And forgive any audio or video issues. This is my first time actually recording something in OBS, and so it is what it is. All right. So we're going to start out, it's cornsnakes.com. You do not have to put forums, that will come up automatically, but it's cornsnakes.com. Just make sure you're on the right website. This is what it looks like. And you will have to have an account in order for this to work. It's free to get an account, so just log in. I'm already logged in just for ease of things. And I'm going to go down, and you want to scroll down to where it says the cultivars, morphs / genetics issues. This whole site, by the way, is full of amazing information. So if you're interested in the history of stuff, or just seeing what breeders are up to that still use the forum, I use it occasionally. I just highly recommend it. I highly recommend also supporting this forum financially if possible. A lot of forums that were really great for corn snakes no longer exist. I know the Ian's Vivarium forum is now gone. The CC Corns forum is now gone. So it'd be really super cool if we worked hard to preserve this forum, just because there's so much amazing information on it. Either way, come down. Once you have an account, come down to this, the cultivars, morphs / genetics issues, and you want to click on that. And what you want to do next is actually go to search this forum, which is over here. And you want to immediately just go to advanced search. Don't even worry about trying the regular search. So especially if we're looking for Ultramel or Ultra Hypo, which is going to be one of the first terms of the Ultra mutation, we're going to go here and we're actually going to type in the words Ultra + Hypo. So ultra hypo is what we want to look for, and you want to make sure that you go, especially if you want to look for older things. So if you want, like I said, the oldest posting that had these two words in it, you want to go down here to where it says last posting date, and you want it to say in ascending order. So I'm going to click that. You can't really see it because of the weird pop-up video or thing, but anyway, you want to make sure this says in ascending order if you want to go from oldest to newest, and then obviously you're searching in here, and you want to go search now. And that will bring you to some of these old forum posts from like 2003, 2004. And these go through, you know, ultra hypogene, gene question. And so this is where you really want to start with learning the history of this specific mutation, the ultra gene mutation. But there's obviously other things that you can search for, and I highly recommend if you have anything specific that you would like to see, that you use this forum, use these tools, because they are free to you, and you know, they are going to give you probably the best feel for the history that is out there now. And you can, you know, any one of these would be a good thing to read through. And this is, like I said, where I found most of my information when I was researching my book. And when I make these videos, this is the best way for me to find the old history information. I hope that this video helped you. And like I said, again, this is my first time using OBS, and I've actually recorded this like 10 times now. So I'm hoping that this is a go. But anyway, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.